Okay, you
Girl,
can
start the
start.
camera.
All right, everybody, welcome
I
to
hate him. I hate him. I can't do it.
everybody,
I
welcome to
can't do
the next episode of JSR Dungeon Podcast. We're
it.
fresh
I
off.
can't do it in that outfit. I can't.
What's wrong with the fit? What's wrong with the fit?
I
No,
can't
Jeremy, you
do.
look good.
I can't
Thank you,
do
thank
it.
you, thank you. All right, so we're fresh off the episode. Um, I'm gonna start off with a little debrief or a little disclaimer, I should say. Unfortunately, neither Danny or Theo can make it. They were the ones eliminated in this episode. But well, Danny has good reasons. I'm not sure Theo's, but sending love to Danny. Theo, I don't know where you're at. As you can see, we're also missing Emily this episode. You know, she's a little studious, so we gotta respect the grind. But guys, what do you think? Let's just start off general thoughts, feelings after that episode.
I was literally laughing the whole episode. It was
No,
so stupid funny.
Everyone is just so silly. Like they're just, and I feel like it's a kind of silly that you only can understand when you've stepped into a trader's game. Like it's such a whole different set of paranoia, I feel like, compared to like a paranoia that you feel with like Big Brother and the challenge. Like you're literally grasping at straws and you're just pulling anything out of your ass. So I feel like it's just such a funny episode to watch just because of that fact. And like we watched this happening live, but it's just so funny to relive it and like watch it again. It's just hilarious.
yeah, it's a very
I can't do it this episode. We're gonna do this.
it's a very unserious episode. So I like even like I obviously I edit them. I edit them myself, but like I forget what happens most of the time. And I watch it back. I'm like, oh yeah, that actually like. Well, let's just start off. The episode starts off with Justice finally meeting who her traders are, her fellow traders are.
Mhm.
She meets
Mhm.
Keisha and Carson. And she was right away, she was like, Keisha, I knew it was you. I didn't hear Justice claim that at all in the other two
Well,
episodes.
it was funny because right before she like got brought in, you were like, "Do you have any ideas on who it could be?" And she's like, "No, I have no idea." And she's like, "I knew it was you."
I knew
I
it.
knew it was you, Keisha. And
That's so
then
silly.
she forgot Carson's name. Did y'all catch that?
Oh yeah,
Yes.
I think I said that. I need to pull up the group chat that has all my notes in it.
Yeah, no, that was hilarious. And Carson was in the live chat as the episode was going on. He was pissed. He was like, "What?" But
Let me scroll up.
so now that they've all like officially met each other, how do we feel about this dynamic? Do we think it's a good trio?
I love them as a trio, and I feel like I don't know if I've like said this like pretty much from episode one, but we've talked about how contrasting Karsa and Keishan are as like players, personality wise and game styles. But adding Justice in, I feel like kind of makes them as a traders team more 3D than 2D. Because on paper they're pretty standard players, but I feel like now adding in Justice, it kind of adds like a level of complexity that I feel like couldn't have been matched if they had recruited anyone really else. Because you have Justice who from the get-go, from literally the moment we started the game, has been gathering the trust and the liking of the whole cast. Like pretty much everybody has had a confessional at least once where they're like, I really like Justice. Oh, I really like Justice's vibe, or I trust Justice. I don't think Justice is a traitor. And we see her being able to like lead the traitor or the faithfuls within a mission, and like she's vocal in that she's vocalizing in roundtable, so she's playing such a different game style that like kind of like adds some dimension to the traders as a whole.
I guess Ava agrees.
I do agree. I think you honestly kind of took the words out of my mouth. I was thinking like with Carson and Keisha, just the two of them, I think it kind of forced Keisha in a position to not be as vocal and be as loud as she wants to, just because she was trying to level out her and Carson's play styles. And
Mm-hmm.
Carson's never going to be the one to just choose to be quiet. And so I think with adding Justice into the mix of the three of them, it gives her the opportunity to kind of play that middle ground of being quiet but being very strategic with when she throws people out, because Justice is just gonna be pretty level-headed, as I'm pretty sure. I feel like that's kind of how it's gonna go. So I think we have like Carson and Justice on the two ends, and I think this sets Keisha up to play like a really good middle game.
Mm.
Well,
We do see we do see Justice. Justice says in her confessional something like, oh, how about how like she's nervous and she's scared and she's just gonna like go like this like on her stomach and be like, show her stomach, whatever, like the dog analogy she used.
Mhm.
And so I feel like she's kind of saying like, I'm too scared to be a traitor. I'm just gonna do what they want me to do. Do you
Mm-hmm.
feel like that is what it's gonna to continue to be down the line? Like, do you feel like that's how she's going to be in the turret?
No, I think it's easy to say that of like, I'll just agree with anything, but you like want to win, and not every kill is going to make sense for all the traders. So I think at a certain point she is going to have to be like, you know what, that doesn't really make sense for me. So I'm going to take that person off the table. Do I think that's going to happen like next week? Probably not. But I think the closer we get to the end, especially if we end up losing Carson or Keisha at a round table, I think she'll find herself in a really good power position. Just because I think Danny was the only person who had sus on Justice, and he's gone.
Mhm.
So,
Well, no. I think it was, who was it? Nick voted Justice.
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
We'll talk about this all later too, but Nick did vote for Justice, and I think it was Leak who also made a confessional about Justice. So
Okay.
there is some sus on her, but for that matter, we'll talk about it. We'll get to the votes later, but I think there's sus on all of them at this point. But to kind of yeah, I really liked the golden retriever and the dogfight analogy that she used. And then that was kind of correlating directly to the conversation they were having in terms of who they wanted to kill. So let's talk about that a little bit. When they were just deciding about people, the first name that got brought up was Theo, and that was brought up by Carson. And I know some people and the viewers were surprised that Carson was so quick to turn on Theo, given the history with JSR Survivor and past games. So, Ava, you're more of a viewer. So, how do you think that move of trying to go after Theo is?
I think if you take the meta out of it, I think it's a pretty easy kill. I don't think Theo made too many waves in the first two episodes. So I think this set the traders up for a pretty bloodless kill, I would say. I think it's like totally fine.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, Theo, without making waves, he had his impact in the episode. He had a shield in the first episode. Um, and he even was a pivotal point in the last round table with making the quiet people lesser of a target. I know when Marissa had spoken about how she didn't want quiet people to be targeted, and there's other reasons as to why people were quiet. Theo was one of the people to jump on that and kind of like make that an accepted fact. And kind of leading into this episode, turn the tide, and you see people who are not quiet getting targeted. You saw people like Jendea and Noel speaking on the fact that they were targeting the loud people this round. And I think that's kind of directly from Theo and Marissa and them saying quiet people are playing for other reasons too, not just because they're a traitor.
Mhm.
How do we feel about Alicia's edit in that traitor talk? I don't know if y'all remember when Justice said that Alicia was in a like a dark black hole.
Yeah, I feel like it's like very similar to like Iman and I, where I was like, oh, they're always in their blue lights. Alicia is always in that like her room with like the dark curtains, but um I don't know. I just have faith in Alicia this game. I feel like she's gonna do really well. I feel like she's at the point in the game right now where she has people who are close to her, and I think what's important to note is that the killing of Theo thinks that she has a closer bond with Nick now, because she's like, oh, I think that clears Nick because Nick would never kill Theo that early.
Hmm.
I didn't really know Nick and Theo were close like that, so I think that was an interesting insight on their dynamic there. Um, so I think one thing Alicia's really good about is like surrounding herself with bigger people. And so I think if she can get in with Nick, I think it's kind of strange that she voted Jendea, but I think Jen might let that go pretty easy, or she might not. It could go either way. Um, but I don't know. I feel like Alicia, I think she's in a good spot to pivot a lot of different ways, and I think it's good to have a lot of avenues in this game.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, one more thing from the trader talk I wanted to bring up, and Ava, you commented on it as you were live watching, but
Mhm.
your thoughts might be different now that you know what happens in the episode. But they talked about the Javen and Danny duo, and
Mhm.
you talked about how Carson was kind of inserting himself into that duo. And
Mhm.
I mean, until Danny was voted out, they really were kind of a trio. They were
Yeah.
they were protecting each other. They had each other's backs. Um, how do you feel about that?
I don't know. I think one thing that these traders are doing really well is like relationship management. I feel like all the three of them are really divvying up the house in a unique way for all of them to kind of have their hands in everyone's game, but not have it overlap between the three of them. And I
Mm,
think
that is
Carson,
so well said.
yeah, thank you so much. But I think Carson surrounding himself with Danny and Javen is really smart because it's two other people that have been very, very outspoken and similar to Carson. So it's hard to kind of track anything back to Carson in the sense of like, you talk so much, you talk like this, and he could easily just be like, so are my like that's just how my allies work. Like we're just pretty outspoken people. I don't think it should be anything out of the ordinary. I don't think just phrasing it like I just said is very smart, but I think if you're looking at it as an outsider's perspective, Carson doesn't really stick out amongst the three of them because they are all very vocal like that.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So okay, that's enough. That's pretty much what happened for the trader talk. Obviously, we saw they killed Theo. You know, the people thought, I think, who did they think was going to die? They thought it was either going to be like Jay.
Nick or Javen. Carson like was like, it's
It's
Oh,
Javen,
Javen, it's Javen.
it's
Carson.
And
Carson is
he was
being so
like,
loud.
that's what I was saying earlier about like watching it back now, because like now we can really like see how the game was like forming around people because when you're hosting a game, it's kind of like hard to like really see the way the game was forming. So like now watching it as a viewer and watching how like people were playing, I'm like, oh my God, Carson, damn, shut up.
yeah.
Damn, oh my God. Like he was like I get it after like a few minutes, but like every damn time someone was coming in, oh my God, it's Steven. Oh my okay, let's calm it down. You're overcompensating at this point. Like but I feel like I don't even know if anybody brought that up. I feel like Norris or somebody did was like Carson is being somebody did. I felt like somebody
Yeah,
said something, but I can't remember
Norris.
who it
Norris
was.
made a confessional about how Carson was being very loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
was watching and I like my this is my live reaction in our group chat. I said, I need Carson to shut the fuck up. Carson, please stop speaking. Oh, Carson is cooked. Like there's like a certain point where you really do need to stop fucking speaking. And I think Carson, 3 episodes in, is already extremely, extremely close to being like so far past that. And so I think it's so hard for him because I would never ask him to play in a way that doesn't like suit him. And I would
Yeah,
never be like, Carson, I need you to be under the radar just for an episode because I know I'm speaking to like deaf ears. Like he would never listen to me. But oh my God, it's just so frustrating because I don't want him to be the first trader voted out. But the trajectory of like the edits and everything we're getting, it's like gearing up very much to be like Carson's going to be the first blood. And I know Carson and I know he's probably going to throw Keisha and then it's just going to turn into like a men's shit show. That's like my prediction. But
mm,
I don't know. I think Carson is leading too much on his preconceived like persona of like being that loud outspoken guy and like you said Charlie like overcompensating and like really trying to drive that home but I think again we're almost to that point where that's going to be more of a detriment than an advantage in his corner.
yeah, I do agree. It is a lot, but it's so funny because we know Carson. We know this is literally just who Carson is, which is,
Mhm.
but it's like, how could it not hurt your game if you're going to be doing that? But I also found it fascinating that he's having this conversation at breakfast with Danny, like, oh, I thought it was going to be you, Danny. Danny's like, oh, I thought it was going to be you, Carson. Oh, I thought, and then they're both like, oh, we think it's going to be Javen. Like he is lying, just like lying so clearly in front of everybody, and they're
he's just so quick to lie. Like
yeah,
he's just so okay with lying. And I think that's so funny. And it just like it's just slips. Like it's just like, oh la, la. Like because then we get into the mission and we see them go and get all the immediately. Oh, it's Chad. So obviously not Chad. So obviously
Well, I
Romanian.
don't think so. Obviously not Chad. I mean, those it was literally identical, but I know what you're saying.
Like
No, the one
like
that was not obvious was the Philippines
the
and Puerto
Philippines and
Rico.
Puerto Rico.
That was my favorite part of the episode. There was a lot of good moments, but Norris messing that
They
up.
go. He
Probably my
went.
favorite part.
Noel went. Uh, did it have a son?
He said,
Yeah.
Yeah,
"Yeah, yeah,
No.
yeah, girl."
it
Did
could
it
not
have
have been
multiple
anything
stripes?
further.
Did
No,
it
it
have
had two,
multiple stripes or two?
two
Two.
for sure.
Uh, and then Norris at the end of the mission was like, I think Bill switched to Philippines and Romania.
It
Worried
wasn't
about the
even
wrong thing.
Philippines.
Worried about the wrong thing. But what do y'all think about Nick calling out Carson for the whole Chad Romania thing?
I don't know because I don't even think that Nick had ever been like Carson is suspicious, but I generally think it came out of a I want to get as much money as I can, so I'm trying to make sure all of our answers are as correct as they can be. So I feel like it came more out of a hey, I'm fact checking you, not I'm trying to catch you in a lie, at least, even though I feel like with his tone of voice, it kind of comes off as I'm trying to catch you in a lie, but I feel like it really was like I'm just trying to fact check.
Yeah, I could see it swinging both ways, and I think it hurts that we didn't really have like a. This is not like an edit drag. This is just like we didn't get like a confessional like insight from Nick on whether it was like, oh, like
Yeah.
Carson was kind of lying. And I feel like if Nick did have a confessional like that, I feel like Jeremy probably would have put it in. So it's giving Nick had given us nothing. Go girl, give us nothing. But
Oh, girl, give us nothing.
um, yeah, I don't know. I think also if Nick had sus about it, it feels just like a little weird to like throw that in front of everybody of like, oh, Carson's lying, like
Hmm.
he's lying about his flag. And
I
then
don't think, but he didn't even say that though either. I feel like, and I feel like everybody, I don't think anybody was like, oh, lying. I think people are, I feel like that's what it was good about this mission, as that it was like, even if you said the wrong flag, it wasn't even looked at like you were lying. It was just like, oh, you were just confused. So I feel
yeah,
like this was such a good mission to like, to kind of have that, because I don't even know if it was explicitly said in in the rules that like, if the traders lied about what flag they had, then they got $10. I don't
It,
think that.
no, that was only explained to the viewers and the trailer,
Yeah.
not
okay,
the.
Or well, like I didn't even know if it was like in the episode, like in the edit. That's what I was asking.
No, you're
Um, so I feel like this was such a good mission to like do that kind of incentive because it's such an easy way to just like lay low. You're just like, oh, it's just like, oh, I thought it was I get caught. We only got 10 seconds or 15 seconds or whatever. So I
yeah.
could be wrong. I don't know. I feel like that was such a good mission for that.
Yeah, I think another thing to like further prove the point of like Nick was probably just saying it to do the mission correctly was he never used that as a like a point to throw Carson's name out at the round table or just like
Mhm.
in general. He never went to anybody and was like, do you think it was weird that Nick or that
Yeah.
Carson was
Mhm.
doing this and that? Like he just kind of sat on the information himself. Maybe we'll see that come up later, but I doubt it. But no, I agree. I really liked this mission and I think like Keisha got away with it scotch free. Like literally not a single person doubted her at all. And so I don't know. I think it's
I
interesting.
also think it worked in the favor to lie because we didn't say which flags were wrong. I think we just told them how many they got correct.
I was surprised
So,
that Justice didn't lie. This was like her first like task as a trader, and she didn't take it. But she still provided, so it's not
mhm.
that's a big deal.
This
Her
Um,
is like low
pencils
key
are
giving
so
foreshadowing.
funny.
I feel like
is
to like
it?
how the season's gonna play out. I don't know, like kind of.
In what way?
Like I feel like Carson's gonna do something really fucking stupid and like get called out for it. And then he's gonna like get voted out. Me like totally switching up my winner prediction from episode one. But I think he's gonna get called out for some bullshit. And I honestly, it would be really cool to see Keisha and Justice win together. Sorry, Carson, I know you're watching. I love you so much, but you're doing too much. You're doing too much. I even said in the group chat I was gonna publicly call you out on the podcast. Please calm down. But I don't know. I feel like the
Carson
traders
goes
played
in
this
the cash
very
chat.
accurately to how they've like been playing the game so far. So I could see that. I don't know.
Carson
So,
went in the cash chat and was like, "Oh, watching this back, I would have done it so differently." He's like, "I didn't see traders before. I didn't know how to play." So he's like, "I
I
would have
think he
played
played great.
differently."
I think he played exactly how we would have wanted him to play.
Yeah, we how what he's doing is exactly what we expected and is exactly why we chose him.
But I want to say this about the mission too. Nick calling out Carson, I feel like had the person that got caught lying was like maybe Danny or somebody else, I think they would have made a bigger deal out of it in terms of using it as ammunition in a round two.
Mm,
But
that's a good point.
I think that because Carson had this kind of insulation with people, that it didn't really become more than what it was. But what do we feel? What do we feel about Keisha and Baylor getting shields again? This is their second episode in a row that both of them got shields.
Shield hog, shield hog, shield hog.
Well,
But
this
I think
one was
it's
anonymous and
yeah.
random, so
Hmm.
I feel like there's not much that you can really comment on it because there was no way to really gun for a shield
Mhm.
this mission. Like you really just it just came to who got the bigger straw. So
I
yeah,
think it's also interesting to note that like no one brought it up. Like
yeah,
I don't think
nobody
like
really was like, who
yeah,
has
not
the
in the sense of like
shield?
Keisha or Baylor, but I think it's interesting that none of the other faithfuls were like conspiring about shields or saying
Mhm.
anything.
I love a good anonymous shield moment. Like, because there's such great ways that you can play an anonymous shield. And there's just so many ways that you can play an anonymous shield. I would have had a field day with anonymous shield. But yeah, I'm kind of sad that nobody really tried to use it to their advantage.
Yeah. Well, there's still the rest of the season, so we'll see what happens. But moving on to past the mission into the breakout rooms. A few things happen in these breakout rooms. We'll start off with uh, Baylor was in a room with Javen and Alicia, and he was actually questioning, kind of a little contrary to what we just said, but he was questioning Carson. He was like, "Is Carson usually this loud? Is this just usually how he plays?" And then Javen goes, "Yeah, I watched him in JSR Survivor, and I think he just is like a polarizing person and gets, is loud, gets reactions out of people." And Alicia said that, he was a bit dumb in JSR Survivor and that Carson is usually a bit dumb. So I think that there is some suspicions growing on Carson, maybe not necessarily for the exact reason that was the Chad Romania, but just the way he's handling himself with the Chad Romania situation, with everything in general. So, like we said, loud is just like, I think that might be not a good thing for him.
I think I definitely don't think that he is at a point of where it's like there's a lot of suspicion, but I feel like people are definitely looking at him being like, are you like, is this a bit or is this real? Like, and I feel like because that's how I feel like the lines are starting to get blurred a little bit because nobody else is kind of like matching that same energy to where like they're so chaotic. Like we have loud people. There's a difference between being loud and being chaotic. And he's like kind of getting to that chaotic mark where it's just like, okay, like you're doing a lot and it doesn't look good and it's making you look worse.
Mhm.
Um, and I feel like that's where I feel like it could be going in the next episode or two. I feel like we might see somewhere where it's like, okay, Carson, what are you doing? You know?
Yeah. I think the like who they choose to murder is going to be like really imperative for how the rest of them or the rest of the three traitors move. I think if they kill someone, I don't know. I like feel a Baylor kill like in my bones, or I guess he can't get killed because he has a shield, but I could see him being a really viable option for the traitors just because I think he is really being presented as like the ringleader of the faithfuls. But I think killing somebody like that wouldn't be good for Carson. I think Carson needs to keep people around who need to be like sheeped, not sheeped, like herded, like yeah, like led somewhere. I think he's very good at doing that. So I think if they start to take people out that are having like I don't know what I'm trying to say. I think you guys understand what I'm trying to say, but the words are not wording. So
Carson is a player who's really good at taking people who need a leader, and we have way too many leaders already on this cast.
mhm.
So he's sticking out way too much, trying to be a leader, because everyone's like, dude, why are you trying to tell me what to think
Yeah,
or
yeah,
what
yeah,
to do?
yeah.
I can think for myself. And people are like, I see you. Like, I see you. What are you doing? I feel like that's because, and I feel like it's really cool. It's really funny that Baylor's the one that is like the first person that's kind of like, hold on, like, because we said earlier in our cast assessment, he's probably one of the smarter ones on the cast. So I feel like he's picking up that early, and we're kind of seeing those like gears turning to where he's like, is Carson doing something here? And am I seeing something?
Yeah, well, to Baylor's point as well, I think that Sky being a faithful in the last round table really helped Baylor's case. Even because like some people last episode, like Alicia said she was sus of Baylor, but Baylor was one of the people defending Sky, and she was proven to be faithful. I think it was Bill who made a point of noting that he was trusting of Baylor because of that. And then some other points that were brought up in those breakout rooms. Norris said he wants to look at the roundtable resistance, like people who are kind of resisting, I guess, the general idea of what's going on, or like trying to push people in a direction, kind of like what you guys are talking about. Um, and Jendaya said that she wants to look at people who are leading the conversations, which is kind of in relation to what we talked about with Theo and everything, kind of Marissa and Theo leading that charge into this episode where they're looking at the louder players. Um, so we also saw Nick address Keisha for her vote last episode. Keisha voted for Nick at the last round table, and her reasoning was kind of based off of what Baylor had done. So Nick brought that up to her and said, I wasn't the one who brought up Danny. Baylor was the one who brought up Danny. Do we think, I mean, I think we talked about it last episode that Keisha was kind of like a little messy for voting Nick. Do we think that could catch up to her? Would that be enough to put you on to be sus of a traitor if they voted for you? If you didn't know they were a traitor?
I don't know. I feel like hmm, I like don't know where Nick's head is at all. Like at all. He's like getting a terrible edit, and I don't think it's to anyone's fault but his own. Um, I just
Tell
don't
them,
know.
Queen. Tell them, film them better confessionals.
Yeah, genuinely, I know Alicia's like, oh no, I trust Nick like a lot more, but I'm like, does Nick even like Alicia? Like, what's the tea? Like, I don't know anything about what Nick is feeling, ally wise. So I don't know. Nick, I think he said something about like playing with Keisha before, and I didn't know they had ever crossed paths. So I don't know. Nick, I'm confused by you. DM me your strategy because I'm confused. Just don't DM me if you win.
Okay. Well, do you guys think Keisha is a good liar? I know we have Carson the loudmouth, but Keisha has been consistently lying throughout this series, I feel like.
I
She
mean, she's showing us that law degree. So I feel like she's doing a good job at portraying who she needs to portray, which is a wolf in sheep's clothing.
well
So
leading
she hasn't stuck out to where she's like a leader, but she hasn't stuck out to where she's a follower. Like she sets her own path, but she's like not like dragging people with her either.
right. She knows how to talk without well, I'm not gonna say that, but she does know how to do this. She knows how to talk without like picking a side. Like in the round table, one of the first things she said, which was kind of accounting to her being a good liar, she said, "Who would kill Theo? Let's figure out who would kill Theo." And then
Mhm.
that's a brilliant thing to do because it looks like you're trying to figure this out and get to the bottom of this with all the other faithfuls. And like when eventually she called Danny out, Danny made the confessional. He was like, when Keisha said my name, I knew it was over.
I knew it was over. Yeah.
Like she is the most trusted faithful, arguably, on the cast, and she's not a faithful.
Right.
hmm It's
She's
so
playing
interesting.
very Suri.
hmm Queen, both queens. It's so interesting to me because this like doesn't really have anything to do specifically with Keisha, but just like the game in general. I was just thinking about it's like not that I think it's easier to be a traitor. But when you're a traitor, there's really only one side of your strategy is just like kill the faithful, don't become suspicious. But
Mhm.
when you're a faithful, it's like, okay, I have to be safe among the faithfuls and make sure I'm not getting voted out at round table. But I also have to make sure I'm not in as big of a position to get murdered by the traitors. So it's like all these different things as a faithful that you're thinking of. And while there's less pressure to like be someone you're not, I think there are so many more things that you have to be thinking of because you can get taken out by your own. Like traitors aren't going to be like I guess they can be thrown at the round table, but it makes more sense to stay strong in numbers for as long as you can. So I don't know. I feel like a lot of the faithfuls are doing a good job of that,
Hmm.
but I think it's only a matter of time until that doesn't work anymore. So I don't know.
I'm glad that you pointed out kind of the dynamics of and like kind of like the difficulties of like both sides of like playing the game of like traders and faithfuls because so many people they'll find out that they're faithful and they're like, oh, this is gonna be so boring. Like I'm not gonna do anything. Like I'm not gonna have anything to do. Blah 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 blah. But if you if you really play as a faithful, the game is hard. Like the game and like the style of gameplay is very difficult to do to like you're saying of like I need to make sure that like I'm not being suspicious, but I also need to make sure that I look naive enough to not get killed. And
Mm-hmm.
like that is such a specific like niche kind of being able to present a character in
Mm-hmm.
and you either have it or you don't. And like so yeah, I agree.
Well, yeah, to that point as well, I think it's like when the traders is a game's play style that's always unique because it revolves around the traders' gameplay, which can be so different from any other season. Like every season can be such a different game because of who the traders are. So it is interesting to see it kind of revolve and evolve around that. But in the round table, one of the first things that happened was Danny saying making a point to say that he thought that the Theo kill, was a frame on him. And people didn't take to that very well. But I have mixed opinions on this because watching it as a viewer, it's so obvious that Danny is just trying to help give information and help clear his name and help be a good faithful and try and give ideas and bounce things off as to why Theo might have been killed or why this, and that. But anytime Danny speaks, people are snapping back at him. Like they just find it sus. You
They
know,
were not fucking with Danny this season.
they were not
They
fucking with.
were not fucking with Danny.
I don't know.
Unfortunately,
And
not.
I just think that that's how the cookie crumbled this season. It's just like, and that's what we said. It's like once your name is said, like especially at that first roundtable, if you're one of the options, babe, you're gone. Like, there's just like no way to come back from it. I feel like, um, it's just like I felt like it's just like how the cookie crumbles. Like he just was not going to gain favor. There, like
Mhm.
once you're that low at the bottom, like there's just no way to gain favor back.
Well, what do you think about him then calling out Baylor? Because Baylor was someone who was trying to, like Danny and Javen were trying to get some blame onto Baylor. Um, you know, Danny made a confessional saying Baylor is putting sus on all the faithfuls. Carson was making a point to kind of say that bad faithfuls are worse than traitors. So I don't know. Do you think that they were right in calling Baylor out? Do you think he was kind of silly for consistently putting blame on Danny and then not voting for Danny?
I do think it's extremely weird. Like if you're going to be calling somebody out as aggressive, not that he was doing it aggressively, but if you're going to have like a very like well formulated throw on somebody and then voting comes around and you're just not going to vote them, it's like why? It's like it's so weird. Like I think it makes so much more sense to do in like Big Brother or Survivor where votes aren't confirmed of like who voted for who. But baby, you're holding up the slate. Like you're showing them. You're like, oh, to me, like if I was playing, that's just like a haha, I got you guys all to do my dirty work and I don't have to write their name down. Like
Right.
it's so weird.
Right. And I think Nick was the one who first called it out and making that point. It's like, yeah, why are you going to call it out if you're not going to vote for it? Like,
Yeah.
it seemed like he's trying to get the blood off of his hands, but I feel like
Mhm.
just soaking himself in the blood more by doing it.
I could see it. I could see it being like, oh, maybe they are a traitor, and it's like if I vote with them, the traitors might come after me, kind of thing. I could see that being a reasoning. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like I would like to hear from some words from Baylor about why he made that decision because I don't know if he had a confessional about it.
He made a point. Him and Nick discussed it at the round table, and he just said that after hearing Danny out, he felt as though Danny wasn't a traitor, which is what Sky said at her exit interview as well. But I don't know. And then again, as a viewer, we know Baylor's just trying to throw everything out to try and bounce off to get to the bottom of it. But like then you see Javen calling Baylor out for also calling Carson loud. That whole conversation that he had with Alicia and Javen aired it out right away. So it's like to me, if I was Baylor, I would be like, Javen, why are you calling that out? Like that's kind of weird. I would be sus of Javen for that. But I totally understand why they would be sus of Baylor for just throwing kind of just throwing shit at the wall and seeing what sticks.
that whole like Javen and Baylor like back and forth is like a two dumb bitches telling each other exactly because it's like both of them faithfuls, both of them coming like Baylor coming to Javen being like, I think this person is suspicious, which you could see that and being like, this person is a traitor and is like playing something suspicious, and then Javen coming and bringing that up at Roundtable, being like, I think Baylor is suspicious because he did this, and Baylor being like, you're suspicious for doing that. Now, like, it's just like two, and they're both faithful, so it's just like just two dumb people telling each other exactly.
It really
I
go ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I was just saying, I think why it's being perceived as Baylor being a little bit suspicious is because, like, people are saying so much, but saying fucking nothing at the same time. Like, Jen was like trying to like tell people like, oh, like order in the court, like let's like talk about it, but like wasn't really contributing to the conversation. And
Right.
like even with like the people who were like pitching in every now and then, it was very much so giving like I'm only speaking so you guys see that I'm speaking, but
Hmm.
what I am saying is literally nothing. Like nobody else besides Baylor and like Javen, in my opinion, had any really like big throws that had a lot of evidence, not a lot, but like evidence to back them at least. And so I think that's where the issue is that people aren't contributing as much. And so I think that's what's causing the like proactiveness to like turn into suspicion.
Right. Well, so would you count Javen calling out Baylor's name, Baylor parentheses faithful, as big evidence?
No, but I don't think there's any evidence.
No, I know.
So is it like, I don't know. I feel like at least Jaden's trying.
Oh yeah.
Like he's trying. Some of these bitches are literally sat there like, I'm
Hmm.
voting you because of bagel. Like, love justice, like,
Not too
whatever.
much
But,
on
like,
justice.
girl,
Not
I
too
need you
much
to
on
get
justice.
real. That is not the
Hashtag
case.
Bagelgate. Hashtag
Hashtag
Bagelgate.
Bagelgate.
No,
We
I love Bagelgate, but I think it's becoming counterproductive. Because, like, if that's all Noelle and Justice are going to be focused on, like, girl,
But do we feel like it's working or it isn't working?
it's working for Justice, but that's it. And, like, good for her. Like, she doesn't really need to think about anybody else to win the game as a traitor. But I think Noel is really not contributing anything to the faithfuls if like that's the only defense he's building is like why Bagelgate is invalid. I think he knows, and I feel like everybody else. I don't. Did he get any other votes besides Justice?
that round, I know the first round Carson voted for him, but that round, no, it was just Justice.
Yeah, I don't think anybody else really believes that Noel is a traitor. So I think it would be best for Noel to just be like, listen, girl, you can keep voting me for the bagel, but I'm not giving you the time of day anymore. Like I need to focus my energy somewhere else. I think if he continues to like feed into Bagelgate, it's just gonna turn into a waste of time and it's not gonna be very good.
I do agree with that, but to counter it a little bit, I do appreciate Noel's way of handling it in the sense of votes. He is not voting tit for tat. He is
Mm-hmm.
still voting who he thinks is a traitor, which I think is an extremely smart way to handle it. Not only handle it, but kind of prove that maybe you aren't suspicious. Like I feel like a trader would maybe go try and go tit for tat, kind of like what Justice is trying to make happen. But hashtag Bagelgate for real.
Yeah.
But kind of not to go back to Carson, but to go back to Carson a little bit. Um, it was interesting. I saw Noel kind of say that the only person who can be suspicious of Carson is me, and I don't find him suspicious, which is like, Noel, this is like the one person you should find suspicious. Or even going back to Baylor telling Javen that Carson was suspicious. I mean, I guess it goes to Carson's social game and how he's like handling people outside of the roundtables. He's building those relationships because they're all willing to defend him over these people calling him out.
Yeah, and that goes back to like Ava's point earlier is the traders have the best relationship management in the game. All of them
Mhm.
have great relationships with everybody. Like there's no well, I mean, we have like the rivalry with like Noel and Justice, but like other than that, like there's not a whole lot of turmoil within relationships that are connected to the traders.
Mhm.
And I feel like if we had any other person swap in for anybody else, that would not be the case. So they kind of have a really good kind of hand in the game right now.
What do we feel? How do we feel about Leak calling out Baylor?
What did he call him out for?
If y'all Leak thought that Baylor had voted for him in the last roundtable, and Leak was building up this whole call out to call out Baylor
Oh, and he
for
didn't
voting for
actually
him.
vote for him.
Yeah. So
I remember
he
this.
called out Baylor at the roundtable, and Baylor was like, "Me? I didn't vote for you." So, how do we feel about Leak's position in the game as a whole?
I feel like just like I said from day one that he was just be there, and I feel like no one's looked at him. I don't think anybody's made a confessional other than Danny saying, "Leak, what are you doing?" Like in that first mission, like no, like isn't he? And I love him because like I want him to be so good. I want him to be so good, and he's just not. And he's just not. And like fun to watch, hilarious. Like I think I remember watching that happen like live and just cackling because it's just like so silly. Um, but it's just like I don't like at what point is it like are you just there? Or like when are
Mhm.
you going to be able to contribute? Like is he going to have something to contribute strategically, strategically?
To be fair, at the end of the episode, Zendaya did make a confessional saying that she was sus a leak. But she also
Girl, she's so dumb.
Zendaya, Zendaya's world.
she was also sus of I think three other people that were all faithful. She said she was sus of Alicia, Nick, Leak, and Noel. So
Girl,
clearly
You can't
Zendaya's
read.
reads are
You can't
not all the
read
way there.
nothing in this game.
that's mother.
Yeah, her reads aren't there yet. But maybe she can get there. Who knows?
She and will
And will.
But the real turning point after Zendaya called for order in the court, I think, in this roundtable was like we said or mentioned already, was when Keisha called out Danny. I think that was the real, okay, this is serious now. We have to vote Danny. Like Danny's gonna be the vote. She was the ultimate faithful, and people just kind of ate it up, honestly.
But then he was a faithful, so will they continue to eat it up?
Exactly.
I don't
Exactly.
know.
So let's talk about Danny's exit since we're mentioning it. Oh, poor Danny.
You're
I
going
think I
in
think
the corner, Jeremy.
The
I
way
think
you were literally in the corner giggling, like I was,
there's
you were
there's
doing
just some
exactly that. You're doing exactly that.
there's just some things you can't write. Like just how unserious the episode already was, and then Danny,
Everybody, everybody immediately cracking the jokes. This
yeah,
some unfriended
Traders
shit.
hacked you.
This some unfriended shit.
Danny was hacked by the traders. It's true.
The way he even said that in his confessional, like
Oh my gosh. But okay. To his goodbye, he put out a pretty like deep confessional for that goodbye. He was like, "I want this to serve as a warning. You guys play more aggressive. Let me be the sacrifice to show you that you guys are playing this game wrong. You guys need to get it together." And he kind of ate. I'm not gonna lie. He ate it because he was right. Danny was a full faithful from the beginning, played his heart out, and nobody wanted to believe him.
Yeah. I do think it's like a little concerning that we'll be going into episode 4 and there's no strong case against any traitor except for like whoever was talking about Justice and how she's so likable. I forget who did that confessional, but one person out of the whole cast, like, wasn't it Danny who made that confessional?
Yeah, it was Danny.
Right. So, like,
But
0.
but Nick did, like I said before, Nick did vote for justice and made a confessional, pretty much saying the same things that Danny had said.
Yeah.
I think if I'm not mistaken, this was the first vote against a traitor in the entire season so far.
Oh, don't drag her like that, Jeremy.
Well, it's just the facts. Nick cast the first correct vote of the season.
Oh, girl, don't say that. He does not need a bigger ego. Oh my God.
So do you think that, that is a case that can build for Nick? He said it's intuition, but do you think he's going to be hunting for little
That
things?
Pisces intuition. Hey.
Not too much. Not too much.
That Pisces intuition.
I don't know because just like based off of what I know about Nick and what I've seen from him this season, I don't know if he is in a position where he wants to spearhead a vote. I know he just came off of a win in another game of being a traitor, so I feel like he would probably have good insight on like how to approach things. And I think just how discombobulated the faithfuls are right now, I feel like none of them are really on this. I don't think anyone is on the same page besides the traitors currently. Maybe that's a terrible read, but I feel like none of them are like, okay, like me, you, and you, like we gotta stick together. Like I trust. I haven't seen any of that, and I don't know if that's just because of like maybe that wasn't happening, but I don't know. It's just very concerning, and I think just knowing who Nick is, if Nick is one to throw a traitor, I think Keisha and Carson, if he throws justice, would just kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why wouldn't you just kill him?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense not to. He already is like a liability to keep around because of how good he is. So it's like, I think he's in a very peculiar position. But if he can maybe talk to the right people and get it to spread and not come back to him, I think that would be really smart. But I think with how this cast is funneling information to really only just like the traders and when the traders are around, I don't know if that would be a very good plan of action for Nick. So we'll see.
Well, so after Danny's vote out, we see kind of the fallout a little bit leading into the next episode. We see Javen say he's now on a revenge tour. He wants Baylor out. Do we know if Javen thinks that Baylor is actually a traitor, or do we think he just wants him out? That's the question. But I feel like if someone just took out my best friend, I probably would also want them out, regardless of their status.
Yeah.
And I think Norris said he was sus of Baylor now. He also said he was sus of Noel and Carson. So Carson's getting that heat like we talked about before. But the thing I think would be most detrimental to Baylor's game is what he just said at the end of this episode. And I don't, we'll see if it actually happens or not. But he said he wants to take a vow of silence for the rest of the game.
No, please. More screen time from Baylor.
Right,
Thank
right.
you.
He's so silly. I mean, I get him because he's like, y'all bitches don't want me to talk, then I won't fucking talk.
No, yeah, that's very mean.
And that's
like,
so
I'm gonna shut
real.
up, fine.
I get it. I'm petty, and I would say that shit.
But if you actually take a vow of silence in the game, no one will receive that well. Like you can't go from talkative to not talking at all.
I also think from like a gameplay standpoint, if Baylor truly shut the fuck up and like stop speaking, who the fuck would speak?
Nobody.
Like literally,
nobody
would. Besides the traders, besides the fucking traders.
He's like, if I don't say anything, then who's going to? Like,
yeah.
because you guys aren't giving me any information. I'm the one giving you all the notes that you're comparing.
Girl, I know I said I was really feeling a faithful win, but these people are acting dumb.
What do you think? What do you think needs to happen for them to snap back?
Hmm. I don't know. Depends on who is murdered next. I think that's going to set the tone for kind of how the next phase of the game goes. But I think currently, I think the faithful just need to be fucking smart. Like, don't vote for somebody like these rogue votes. I'm sorry, what?
Mhm.
Why is half the cast rogue voting? It was a 5-4 vote.
I
Right.
think that was something that we said while we were watching. We're like, where are all these random ass votes coming from?
Like, you are never going to accomplish anything. And like, a rogue vote came from Baylor, who is literally building the case against someone. Like,
Mhm.
your vote in the traitors is the only power that you have. You, unless you are a traitor, you have no other power and will earn no other power besides the vote that is given to you. So it is like fucking mind blowing that these people are like so willy nilly with their votes, and I think they're like honestly not thinking strategically at all currently. I don't think there's any like game talk that's going on. I think it's like all very like, oh yeah, this was like kind of sus, but like I don't really know, or like, and there's nothing concrete. And I think what needs to happen is people need to be like, okay, we actually need to start figuring this shit out, or it's going to be too fucking late. Because if the traders like are catching on to how stupid the faithfuls are currently being, they're just gonna knock out their top faithfuls, and then they're gonna have a steamroll at the end. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna be able to form those numbers against the faithfuls, and I just think I don't know. I need like honestly, I need Baylor to like sit the faithfuls down like he's like a fucking kindergarten teacher and be like, okay, this is how we're going to play the game, and you need to start paying attention. And then I need somebody else to come in and teach Baylor like he's a first grader and be like, you cannot throw your vote anymore. So that's what needs to happen, in my
Not
opinion.
Baylor is teaching the kindergartners, but is a first grade student.
Yes.
My thing is though, it's like if if there was a game going on and there wasn't anything to be sus of, I would understand. But there is so much to be sus of. With maybe, I mean, I think all three traders have put out reasons to be sus of them.
Hmm.
Keisha has now called out two people who were faithfuls.
Yeah.
Justice has been calling out somebody the entire game, which, while yes, a point of contention is a smart way to like ease the eyes off of you, at the same time, a faithful isn't going to start random drama.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Justice is doing. And then of course Carson is just loud in general, but he was also caught in a lie. So it's like the it's right in front of you guys. What are you doing? There's nothing being hidden at all.
No.
Everything is in plain sight, and you're choosing to ignore it. And you're choosing to go after people for the same reasons, but not calling out the traitors for those same reasons.
Yeah. Oh God, the traders are also they're just playing really good. I think they're playing right into that, like what you just said. Like the faithfuls are allowing them to act that way, and if they can continue this and like teach it to the faithfuls as like their normal behavior, then they're gonna eat that shit up. Like they're gonna learn like, okay, this is just how they are, like whatever. But if somebody called Carson out and was like, dude, you gotta like reel it back in because it's honestly getting to a point where like I don't know if you're performing or not. Carson's going to be put in a position where his only throw and his only defense to that is like, that's how we always play. Okay, girl, that's not enough for me to not vote you out. Like, I'm so sorry, but this is a game for money, and how you always play is not going to hold up in court. Like, I need you to tell me why you are being so aggressively wrong on everything, besides it's just how you normally are.
Right.
Like, no, they are being questioned by no one, and it's just going to take one person to really be like, okay, dude, like, break it down for me because I'm not following.
Because
Hmm.
even after this episode, I don't even think it's fair to say anymore that Keisha is quiet. She's been
No,
she's been loud and wrong. Carson's been loud and wrong. Justice has been loud and wrong. So it's like, come on, guys.
yeah.
But I don't know. You guys have any other thoughts? I feel like we've pretty much covered everything.
I'm good. I feel like we
A-
did cover everything.
Any updated winner picks, Ava? who do you think is going to get killed? Let's ask
Yeah,
you.
take Carson out of my fire of truth. That bitch is not making it there. Like, there's just no way. Sorry, Carson. Love you. Um,
First, to start, who's going to get murdered?
who's gonna get murdered? Okay, I don't know if this will happen, but I really, 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 really would love for it to happen. I want them to try to murder Baylor, but Baylor has a shield. But I think it's also very interesting to note that Keisha has the shield, so she's gonna be able to tell the other traders like somebody has a shield that we don't know of because obviously she has one.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. I would just love for it. I feel like that would be such good TV, and like I'm like a Baylor stan now, so because main character moment would be cute. But I think real if that doesn't happen, it doesn't make sense for them to kill Noelle because Justin like they would just go back to justice. I don't think it really makes sense to kill Javen, but I could see them doing that. I could see them maybe killing Alicia. I know it's not Zendaya because she said she has her headphones this episode, so she spoiled that for me, Queen. I'll lock in either Javen or no, I'll lock in Alicia or a Baylor attempted murder.
Mhm.
Just for the record, maybe Zendaya had it for her death interview. You never know. Maybe that's what she had her headphones for.
Oh, maybe she did. Maybe she did. Not Queen.
And who do
Yeah.
you think should get banished next?
Carson, I think he should get banished next. Do I want him to? No. For the faithful sake, he absolutely should be. Do I think it will be? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if Justice or Keisha would vote against Carson this early. So I don't know if there are like actual numbers there. So I honestly could see it being Baylor getting voted out. Just because like I think at this point he's the only person who is given anything. And I think the faithfuls are gonna take that as he's a traitor. So I think they're gonna make a dumb move and vote out their smartest faithful this early. So
Well,
those are Ava's predictions. I can't wait for them to all be wrong. Except I think I predicted the Theo kill.
You did.
I'm
hey,
so smart.
okay. You're paying attention then. Well, then who do you
Thanks,
think?
Jeremy.
I know, right? Who do you think, if you had to pick, let's just say three people, four people. How many people did you pick? Five for the finale? You picked five,
Four.
right?
Four.
Or four? Okay. So you want to take Carson out. So give us an updated prediction. Not prediction, but based
My
off
win
what you know.
picks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I don't know. I think I'm putting way too much like trust in the faithfuls. So hmm, I think Keisha might get there. I don't think I like was so far off from that my first episode. I think Keisha will get there. I could see her bringing this isn't like a person, but I could see her bringing the next recruit. I think there will probably be a recruitment after the first traitor is banished. So I'm just gonna say whoever that person is, whoever the next recruit is, will be with Keisha. Um, I'll put Nick G in there. I feel like Nick G could get misted maybe. And it has gotta be someone who's like totally under the radar right now. Oh, Marissa, my queen. She's getting that purple edit. I know it.
She threw out Baylor's name this episode.
Mhm.
I'm curious to see how that continues. I love Mercer's edit in this game. She's so funny.
Queen. She's about to clean out. Just wait.
All right. Well, we'll see if it comes true. I think that's the wraps for this episode.
Period.
Thank you guys for being here. Thank you guys for watching, whoever is watching. And we will see you next time. And hopefully we
Leave
have,
questions in the comments below.
right. Hopefully we have Emily here next time. Hopefully we have our exit interviews next time. Um, we'd love to have you. So see you next time. Thank you, everybody. Bye bye. Have a great night, day, whenever you're watching.
Bye.